How do you define the greatest fighter of all time? Is it the boxer who never lost a fight, or one who looked unstoppable in his prime? Maybe being the people's champ is the true measure of greatness. Or maybe it's longevity. Here's a graph of elite fighters and the number of decades in which they were champions. Marvin Hagler was marvelous in the 80s, and lots of all-time greats dominated 2 decades. Sugar Ray Leonard and Floyd Mayweather reigned in 3 different decades. But standing alone at the top, holding a world championship in the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and for a brief period in 2020, is Manny Pacquiao. For 4 decades, Pacquiao has defined boxing excellence. Now, it's not a perfect metric, but you could split Pac-Man's career in half, and both resumes would be Hall of Fame worthy. And despite just being inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame, he's coming out of retirement to fight for the title. At 46 years of age, he's looking to become the oldest welterweight champion of all time, breaking the record that he set 6 years ago. Oh, and the champion that he's facing wasn't even born when Pacquiao made his professional debut. Ladies and gentlemen, we are once again witnessing greatness. But at this age, it comes at a very hefty cost. On July 19th at Wembley Stadium, live on DAZN, Alexander Usyk and Daniel Dubois are set to rematch for the heavyweight crown. Usyk wants to finish what he started, but Dubois has transformed into an absolute wrecking ball. It might be repeat, or it might be revenge. The only guarantee is an explosive heavyweight brawl. Get the pay-per-view at DAZN.com/Murdoch in the description. And if you buy the card using my link, you can get 33% off with an additional month free or a 7-day free trial of DAZN. If it's anything like the first one, it'll be skill versus power, technician versus TNT. Can Dubois put a stop to Usyk's British warpath? Don't miss the biggest fight of the year. Get the pay-per-view at DAZN.com/Murdoch. Beware an old man in a profession where men usually die young. I could watch prime Roy Jones Jr. highlights all day, and I usually do once a year. But as fun as they are to watch, what I find far more interesting is the old champion. The battle-tested veteran that can't move quite like he used to, but knows every trick in the book. He's past his physical prime, but his experience and ring IQ are maxed out. Some of the greatest performances of all time are when the old master turns back the clock and schools the young champion. At 46 years old, Pacquiao is gonna need any advantage he can muster against his 30-year-old opponent. It's not an impossible feat, but it is improbable. We're all aware of when George Foreman won the heavyweight title 20 years after he lost it, but heavyweights have the luxury of one-punch knockout power. As you go down the weight classes, skill, speed, and athleticism are indispensable. It's simply a young man's game. Father Time is undefeated, but it hasn't stopped the greats from trying. Perhaps none more impressive than the king of longevity, Bernard Hopkins, who unified the light heavyweight titles when he was 49. If Pacquiao wins, he would break Foreman's record and become the 2nd oldest champion in boxing history. It's ridiculous that in 2025, Pacquiao is entering the ring, let alone fighting for a title. He shouldn't even be here. The odds are stacked against him, and it'll probably end badly. Then again, that's been said many times, in 2005, in 2012, and in 2017. And yet, somehow, he always manages to prove us all wrong. By the time Pac-Man was 39, he had been knocked out cold by Juan Manuel Marquez, shut out by Floyd Mayweather in their super fight, and robbed on the cards by Jeff Horn. That's 3 tough losses in a sport where one ends a career. He could have retired and lived out his days as a legend, but instead, he embarked on, for my money, a 3-fight run as impressive as any other stretch in his career. The comeback began against Lucas Matisse. Usually after a setback, boxers will fight someone with no punching power, someone they can dance with for 12 rounds to get familiar with the ring again. But if your name is Manny Pacquiao, you fight someone with a 92% knockout ratio, knock him down 3 times, and score your first KO in 8 years. Next was Adrian Broner, 4-division world champ and 11 years his junior, but gun-shy against the 40-year-old senator. This was the last time I can remember seeing Manny's trademark hand speed, and AB just couldn't handle it. And finally, the crowning moment of Pacquiao's old man arc, a fight against the champion. Keith Thurman was undefeated, 10 years younger, and a proper power puncher. This felt like a step too far, but in the first round, we saw vintage Manny Pacquiao.
Bit of a smile from Manny Pacquiao. Oh, down goes Thurman!
It was just a flash knockdown, but for a second, I was transported back to 2009, Modern Warfare 2, The Hangover, and Pacquiao knocking everybody out. Thurman got back up and gave Manny his toughest fight since Mayweather, and he probably would have won if it weren't for the knockdown and tenacious bodywork down the stretch. At 40, Manny Pacquiao was champion once again. It wasn't prime Pac-Man, but to see him fly around the ring and win the title as a part-time boxer turned senator was incredible. And if there was still any doubt of his warrior mentality, he then signed the contract to fight Errol Spence Jr. Think about that. 42-year-old Pacquiao wanted to fight a prime, undefeated Spence. Of course, that fight would never happen due to injury, and Pacquiao would lose to the 2-week replacement in Yordenis Ugas. But this 3-fight, championship-yielding victory lap was some of the most entertaining boxing I've ever seen, and I see it as the cherry on top of an already legendary career. Which makes Pacquiao's upcoming title fight against Barrios a little upsetting. He hasn't earned this title shot, and if his last 2 fights, exhibition or otherwise, are any indication, he's probably gonna get hurt. Highlights are fun to watch, but at the end of the day, this is a 46-year-old who hasn't fought in 4 years and is severely past his prime. Ugas absolutely battered him, to the point where he couldn't even feed himself after the fight. No one remembers this side of boxing. They just want to see their favorite fighter chase the past, even if it kills them in the present. And sadly, fighters never know when to quit. I'll be watching because his greatness demands it, but I don't suspect he'll win. On one hand, I'd love to be proven wrong and see the legend pull it off one more time. But if he does, he's only inviting more opportunities to take punishment. He already lost to Ugas, who lost to Barrios. But then again, Barrios lost to Thurman. Styles make fights, and I will never count Pacquiao out of one. He's chasing greatness, but he doesn't have to. I just hope he doesn't take too much damage.